Professor Allan Saxe on the line right now. He's from the University of Texas at Arlington, political science professor. And Allan Saxe, Professor, good morning.
Good morning, sir.
I got to tell you, it's very interesting to watch. The Democrats federally have really stayed away from the gun issue until this year. It seems like they feel like they have public opinion on their side. But what I find interesting, and I'd love your opinion on this, we saw it here in New York, is that after a shooting, and what happened in Orlando was very emotional for a lot of people, you automatically begin to see people saying, well, you know what, listen, I am for gun control after all. And the Democrats and the liberals feel like they have an in, and they push. Cuomo did it with the SAFE Act here. And then all of a sudden, as time goes on, people begin to settle down. The emotions seem to go away. And all of a sudden, they don't have that support. I kind of feel like the same thing could happen here to the Democrats. This could backfire.
It could. In fact, what is there is a strange thing going on. A lot of people want to, some people even suggested disarming our police in the light of what happened in Dallas, which is just a few miles from where I am right now. If they really want to disarm the police, then people are going to want to carry guns even more than they do at the present time. So we have to have more police and more well-trained police, and we need to do and more trust in our police and pay them more money. The starting salary of a police officer in Dallas was $40,000 to risk their lives every day, which is not good. So if people want to downgrade, if people really want to get a handle on guns, the best thing they can do is to put more faith, more police, more well-trained people on the streets. Instead, the criticism has been very intense. In Dallas, a lot of people don't know this, the police force in Dallas was down about 30 or 35% before the tragedy of what happened last week. So already the police force was being downplayed for a number of reasons, downgraded. We need to do the very opposite. But guns are very common in Texas.
Yeah.
In fact, at our university, starting August the 1st, students, faculty, and staff will be allowed with a concealed handgun permit to carry weapons into a classroom.
Wow.
And that's created quite a controversy here in Texas. And I joke to my students, I'm going to be packing heat.
You're going to be packing heat.
I'm going to be packing heat. And if you know what I look like, that's about the most ridiculous thing I could ever say.
Well, listen, and you understand, I think we might have talked about this, but we are in upstate New York.
Right.
And 7 minutes away is Ilion, New York. And I don't know if you know the significance of that, but that's Remington Arms, the oldest continuously owned gun maker in the United States. So it's a very big deal here. Gun rights are the Second Amendment is very near and dear to the hearts of people here.
It is to me too, and I'm up against a big battle all the time here at our universities. In fact, I would argue, I'm going into a little bit of an area, but I think it's all connected. Part of the reason why we've lost so much trust in our institutions, and a lot of that goes to the police, and that's unfair. I think that people are so mad at government in various ways that they take everything out on the police, and that's my own idea. I think the police catch the brunt of a lot of people's frustrations that come from a lot of different areas. Part of what's happened in our public schools, I know I'm overgeneralizing, from kindergarten all the way up to college universities, is talking about how bad America is. And also, as immigrants come over, we tend to say, we want to know who you are. It ought to be the very opposite. Yeah. They ought to know who we are first, then we'll learn who they are. So our universities, colleges, schools have everything turned upside down. And that's tended, I think, to really mistrust our government, our institutions, and the police are just a visible part of our government, and they get all the brunt of it.
Yeah. Well, I mean, ultimately, though, there have been some shootings that should not have happened. And it does, we hold police to a higher standard.
That is true.
And then when you can't blame the media anymore. I don't think you can blame the media on this. I think social media, however, is something that, we talked about this last week after all of this went down in Minnesota and in Baton Rouge. social media, while it's so positive and communicates, it allows people to communicate, it also can really light a match under a very, very difficult situation.
Oh, absolutely. In fact, in Dallas, I don't do social media much. It's just not my thing. I'm too old-fashioned for that. But apparently, that march got together out of social media all of a sudden.
Yep.
And by the way, the media's been saying that the march in Dallas was very peaceful. For the most part, it was the main part of the march. But even after those terrible shootings that same night in Dallas, in front of a convenience store, the police were very responsible. They were not doing anything. They stood in front of a convenience store to keep it from being looted.
Yeah.
And there were a lot of young men in front of the police doing all sorts of things, trying to get their attention and rattle them and taunt them. And that was on live television here in the Dallas-Fort Worth area. That's not been reported very much. I think the police did a magnificent job when they were being taunted and yelled at, and they just stood there in front of a convenience store that had already been looted.
I don't know about you, but when I was brought up, you were brought up to believe that if you have a problem, you reach out to a policeman.
That's right.
You were brought up under the belief that police were good. And I think that in some communities, and impoverished communities especially, it's not that way. And these kids are brought up much differently.
Exactly. And I think our schools are to some extent to blame for that, because the way they criticize America so much, the bitterness about America. In fact, the President of the United States, I think, is also to be held responsible in part for the atmosphere that's been created over the past 7 or 8 years.
Well, he's the first one that came out on gun control.
That's right.
Which I think is a mistake. You notice Hillary didn't touch it.
That's right.
Yeah.
Just the message that the government should be giving is one of trust and responsibility.
Yeah.
In fact, they still are in this criticizing. Hillary Clinton yesterday was talking about white America has to change its ways. I'm not sure what she means by that, but that's not the kind of rhetoric that we need at the present time.
Well, the memorial is going to be held in Dallas, I believe, tomorrow, this week anyway, and it'll be President Obama and former President George W. Bush that will be there speaking. It'll be very interesting to see how they try to bring people together. Well,
I think it's good that they do this, but frankly, prayer vigils and speeches like that, I think are only good for a small period of time. It takes a long time to build faith and trust in our institutions. These vigils are great, but they're not very lasting.
Professor Saxe, thanks so much for your time. I appreciate it.
Thank you, sir. It's always appreciated.
Okay. Birthdays here today. For the 11th of, we're post-Boilermaker now. The summer's all over with. Here comes the NFL. Post-Boilermaker, the 11th of July. Brent Ergen, E-U-R-G-A-N, in Marcy, happy birthday. And Brandon Rosano in Holland Patton, each celebrating today. The cake goes to Brandon Rosano from Holland Patton. You get a cake from the Florentine Pastry Shop on Bleecker Street in Utica. And let's give one to Brent Ergen, too. Can we do that? Because I might have mispronounced his name. I'd feel terrible if I did.
Sure.
All right. Is that all right?
You're the cake czar.
I'm the cake czar. Yeah. So Brent Ergen and Marcy, or Ergen, and Brandon Rosano, each getting a cake from the Florentine Pastry Shop. And get a birthday on our on the airwaves by going to our website at WIBX950.com. Or you can do it the old-fashioned Joe Morelli way, and that is have the postman deliver it using a postcard. 9418 River Road, Marcy, 13403. Christine now with news at 7:32.